As you can see, there are multiple railing configurations that you can create. I'll begin by selecting one of the railings and then clicking Edit Type to open the Type Properties dialog. Here, you can see all of the type parameters available to define a railing type. Additionally, you can click Preview as you are creating or modifying a railing type to help you understand what is going on with the railing type that you are creating. In the 3D view, you can orbit around here in the preview, and you can also change the preview view type. You can change it from a 3D view to an elevation view, multiple orientations there to help you see what you are creating. As far as the type parameters, you definitely want to pay attention to the rail structure, the baluster placement, and then the other options as you move down, such as the top rail and the handrail parameters. We'll begin by looking at the rail structure. And as you can see, the parameter is called rail structure non-continuous, and you can click Edit to open the Edit Rails non-continuous dialog. For this railing type, there are multiple rails that have been added. And for each rail that you insert, you can specify a name and then adjust the height, which will be the height above the level that the railing is created at. And then you can specify an offset to offset it to either the left or right of center. And then you can control the rail profile, and you can choose one of the available options in the project. And then, if you wish, you can specify a material so that that specific rail has a material, or you can just leave it to by category, and whatever is set for railings will be set for that rail as well. When you, as you can see here, when you select one of the rows, that rail will highlight in the preview. That way you can see exactly what you are working with. You can insert rails. You can even duplicate them. So once you get one specified just like you want it, you can duplicate it. You can delete rails and then move them up or down as needed. I'll click OK to close each of the dialogues. And then I'll select another railing and click Edit Type. And then I'll click Edit next to Rail Structure. And for this type, you can see that there are not any rails. So you can add several rails or not any at all, depending on the type that you're creating. I'll go back to that previous one and go back to its type properties. And next, I'll click Edit next to Ballister Placement. And in this dialog, this is where you can control the baluster placement and the spacing. And there's quite a bit going on in this dialog, but essentially you are going to control the spacing of the main pattern, and that's done here in the main pattern area. And then at the bottom, you can control the posts, the start post, corner posts, and end post. So let's begin here in the main pattern area. You can specify a name, and then you can control the baluster family. When you click in that field and expand the drop-down, you can choose one of the available options that has been created in the project. Then you can control the base and then add any base offset. And the base can either be the host or it can be one of the non-continuous rails or the top rail element. And similarly, you can control the top, and that once again can be the host or one of the non-continuous rails or the top rail element. And then you can specify an offset if you want to offset the top of that baluster. And then you can control the spacing, essentially the distance from the previous baluster, and then add any offset as needed. You can also duplicate the baluster. If you want to get a little more complex, you can adjust the baluster placement for any duplicate balusters that you add. You can also move them up or down in the list and delete them as needed. There are also some additional options here in the main pattern area. You can choose to break the pattern, and you can choose, depending on what option you choose, there can be some additional options there. You can control the justification, whether you're going to justify from the beginning, the end, the center, or spread the pattern to fit. And then there's also an excess length fill option. You can choose to truncate the pattern, or you can add a specific baluster family and adjust the spacing, or just leave it set to none. So once again, several options there to control the balusters and then the spacing of those balusters. And then as stated before, you can control the start post, the corner post, and the end post, and you can choose a baluster family, and then once again control the base and the top and the space here. I'll click OK to close this dialog, and then I'm going to switch to the glass panel bottom fill railing type, and then I'll click Edit next to baluster placement. And here you can see under the main pattern that there are two balusters that are added. We have the steel flat upright as well as the glass panel, and then they are both spaced and offset a little bit differently there. And so that's how you can get a little more complex and create a railing like this with the glass panels. I'll click OK to close the dialog, and now we'll take a look at a few other options here. You can see there are several more parameters under construction, and then you can add a top rail by simply enabling Use Top Rail, and then you can specify the height and then control the type. When you click in the type field, you can click the More button to open the Type Properties dialog for the top rail type. And then you can select a specific type, or you can even duplicate it and then adjust any of the parameters here to create a new top rail type. I'll click OK to close the dialog. And then similarly under handrails, I'll switch to another type that actually has one. And I'll scroll down here. So for handrail 1 and handrail 2, you can select the type. Once again, click in that type field and click the More button, and then you can select a type. And these are handrail types, and once again, you can select an option or duplicate an existing type to create a new type, and then several parameters here to define those handrails. And then the lateral, offset, and height parameters, those will be filled in automatically based on the type, and then you can set the position to either none or left or right. Or you can also choose left and right in order to add it to both sides. So for example, when I click apply, then we can look at the preview here and see that it's added to both the left and right. Or once again, if we just select these options, you can scroll through here and just simply click apply and look at how those handrails work. I'll click OK. And once again, there are several parameters available to help you configure railings to model exactly what you need for your project.